Hey everyone, and welcome back to Token Talk. Now today I want to talk about, is Altseason canceled, right? Because we've seen a little bit of some interesting stuff happening over the past couple of days specifically. So I want to talk about that a little bit further about what does this mean for Altseason? Were we in Altseason? Were we not in Altseason? Are we out now? All this type of stuff. So anyway, let's go ahead, dive right in and check it out. So what we can see here on Crypto Bubbles is we can see that we do have a pretty mixed day in the market overall. I mean, it obviously is still tilted towards the downside. We are seeing more red bubbles than green here, but we are starting to see a couple green bubbles kind of peek in here and there. I mean, if we look at the week, this is kind of what we're used to seeing, honestly, sans all of the green. We've been used to seeing some pretty red and some pretty dark red bubbles for the past couple of days as the kind of market at large has pulled back. A lot of the alts that we've seen make kind of staggering runs have had quite a bit trimmed off them. Obviously, we can see Aptos down 20% in the week, Brett 20%, IOTA 30%, TIA 22%, right? I mean, lots of things kind of really getting pulled back pretty hard here. And so, however, this is something that I would not consider too concerning, because even if we go back to the month, I mean, look at all this green everywhere. I mean, there's a couple reds here and there, but I mean, realistically, everything that we're seeing here up huge. H-bar, 400%, XRP just shy of 300%, Algo 182, XLM 273. I mean, tons of major moves up to the upside here. And so I think things still looking pretty good, even though we are seeing a little bit of some pullbacks here. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about here is Altseason canceled, right? As we can see, if we look at the Altseason index, we can see obviously we moved up pretty quickly into altcoin season, but we were only there for a couple of days, and now we've since pulled back. We're down at 65 right now. Definitely favored toward alt season, but definitely not in alt season at this point. And I think it's fairly easy to see why that is. Where this continues to go, I'm not certain. It's possible that maybe we kind of start moving closer back to Bitcoin season. Really hard to say overall. I mean, we can see for the month we are technically an altcoin season, but for the year we are definitely still tilted towards a Bitcoin year overall instead of an altcoin year. And so that's kind of what we're seeing in the market right now. Now, looking at the total to market cap, there's two things that I want to show here. The first thing here is Bitcoin dominance to crypto market cap. And what we can see, obviously, basically ever since the peak of last cycle, it's been almost up only for Bitcoin dominance. We can see very recently, though, a pretty sharp fall, and this obviously kind of aligns with this massive rise that we've seen up with essentially the altcoin market cap, right? Because crypto total 2 is essentially everything that is not Bitcoin. And so that's what we're looking at here. Now, if we take this away, we're going to look a little bit more short term here and see a couple of different things. So the first thing we're going to see, obviously, is we were consolidating for a pretty decent chunk of time overall, basically from like March until the beginning of November. It was a consolidationary period and also like a descending consolidationary period, right? Obviously, lower highs, lower lows, basically all the way down. We did start to kind of travel a little bit more sideways kind of towards the end of this. So basically like from August onward to November. But basically after November, I mean, it was a rocket ride, right? I mean, insane moves to the upside, really, really strong moves basically everywhere in the market. It would have been really, really hard to find something that didn't move at least 30, 40, 50%. I mean, really, really decent moves all throughout the market. Now, what we can see here, though, is ever since we kind of topped out here, we've seen a really, really strong pullback. Obviously, if we zoom in a little bit closer, we can see a couple of things in particular. The 9th of December, not a great day to be an altcoin holder overall. We can see a major candle as well as an even longer wick. Same thing here on the 10th, which was yesterday. We could see, again, really, really long wick to the downside. Price held pretty well. I mean, we did see a lot of buying pressure, especially at this kind of fib level here. We have not dropped below this fib level. We have dropped below this level of support or resistance here. I mean, it was kind of a support for a moment, I guess, but it's now turned into a resistance. We're sitting at the 1.44 trillion. The fib level's at about 1.43, and the next point of resistance is about 1.47. So we are squeezed a tiny bit between a rock and a hard place here. Based on kind of what we've seen on the chart right now, I would say it will be much easier to break the fib level to the downside than it would be this level of resistance to the upside. But again, it's crypto. Anything can happen. Things can change on a dime. You never know for sure. But overall, I mean, things definitely looking a little bit bleak for the altcoin market right now. But again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, we just saw this, right? Even if you go from here to there, I mean, we've still seen some pretty insane gains going from 800 billion to 1.4 trillion. I mean, that's almost a 2x, right? Even after this pullback. And so this is the thing that we need to be focused on is, yes, this looks bad, but zoom out and look at this. This looks fantastic, right? And even if this is all we pull back, I think that's great. I mean, I think we could even pull back all the way to the 1.2 trillion range, and I think that still would be pretty good for what we're looking at here. So overall, I mean, we just need to keep perspective of what we're seeing. If we saw this without any of this, frankly, that would be more concerning than this with a little bit of this. That, like, this to me is just the market kind of cooling off, resetting. There have been billions and billions and billions of dollars liquidated over the past couple of days. Obviously, you know, we can see here from these wicks and whatnot, but I mean, tons of money getting flushed out of the system. This is always a good thing when we start to see moves like this, because a ton of leverage starts to enter the system. Things go, things go crazy. People have made insane amounts of money. They're like, oh, well, look at this. It's just gone up only for the past month or two. It's going to continue to go up only. I'm going to go take a 5 million X long on Bitcoin or whatever, Dogecoin or something. And that, this is to wipe those people, basically. That's what this is for. And so, I think it's definitely a very necessary and needed part of a healthy move to the upside. Like I said, if we can find a level of support within this range, I think that's fantastic. And even looking out at the fib levels here, looking and kind of zooming in or zooming out even further than that, we can see, if we find another level here, a similarly moved upside puts us well over our previous all-time highs, probably up into price discovery zone, probably around the $2 trillion mark-ish range. I mean, I guess if we look from magnitude, probably about 2 trillion. If we look from percentage, we're going to be looking close to the 3 trillion range, right? So let's just keep zooming. And if we see similar in magnitude, we're easily gonna move past this 1618 range, and then next we're gonna be looking at the 2618, which is about the 3.75-ish trillion dollar range. And so, in magnitude, definitely possible to see kind of a move like this. In size, something kind of between the 1 and 1618. But overall, I mean, hopefully you can see like a move like this. We haven't even hit alt season yet, technically, right? I mean, I'm not totally sure that Bitcoin's topped out. Maybe it has. Who knows? Nobody ever knows in this market. But assuming that this cycle follows similar cycles in the past, Bitcoin probably hasn't topped out yet, which means we realistically haven't seen kind of a move out of Bitcoin into other things. We've got a really, really strong pro-crypto administration coming in the US. The kind of world at large seems to be opening up towards crypto generally. I think AI is helping with that a little bit. I think just the strength that we've seen with crypto over the past 7, 8, 9, 10 years at this point, I think is really helping. I think, frankly, the U.S. changing its tune is, I do think that's helping. I don't know how much of that's, changing the mind of other administrations, but I do think, at least from kind of a perception standpoint, I think it might be helping a little bit. So seeing some similar moves like this way up into the 2, 3, 4 trillion dollar range, I think is very possible, particularly if we start to see more institutions get involved, we start to see a lot more of that hype build, a lot of that type of stuff. I do think there's a lot of potential here, and things are just getting started. And so from what I would say to kind of wrap up the question, no, in my opinion, alt season is not canceled. I think this is something that is very normal and, frankly, a necessary part of what we're seeing. Honestly, if we only dip this much, I'd be very pleased with what we're seeing. It would not surprise me if we dip even further, like I was saying, back to that like $1.27 trillion range, just because that to me would seem to be kind of a decent sized pullback, but it also kind of pulls back on leverage, on liquidity, a lot of that type of stuff, and gives us a nice run up to the next kind of upside. And so hopefully the information in this video was useful. If it was, please do give us a like and subscribe, because it really does help us out. Also, if you have any comments or questions or anything, just feel free to drop those in the comment section below. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.